Hey guys, what is up? Welcome to the last best champion video of season 7. If you have any suggestions for season 8, let me know. Things like do more top 5 or role specific videos, explain more about how to win with them, like the champions I talk about or the meta maybe, let me know. A list of the champions and timestamps are down below as usual, but the jungle is kicking us off today with the new version of Sejuani. Zhao has overtaken everybody as the best pick you can play if you want to carry from the jungle. I actually told Foxjaw about this. He said, nah, that's rubbish. And then he climbed back to Diamond 1 with Xin, so go figure. Warrior, Trinity, or Cleaver now is the best way to play him, I think. Burst is nuts, and you dominate up until about 30 minutes into the game. After that, you can go tank, so you can survive the dive in and stuff, but really, you're designed to do a silly amount of damage and snowball really hard. I think overall, honestly, like, your ultimate is really strong anyway. It can be really good zoning the enemy AD carry. You have good matchups versus carry picks right now. You out-duel them, you out-damage them, you even out-sustain them. I think it's also just very easy to play and still very effective. Easy to play is not necessarily a bad thing. Easy just means that you're going to be able to do your maximum amount of damage every fight. Jarvan is our runner-up pick for this patch. With the fall of Sejuani, Rammus, and other tanks and stuff, we lack some engage in the game now, but Jarvan kind of brings us that and some damage. He's very good when ahead with his damage and his ability to gank, and most of this actually is repeat gank. So you go somewhere, you blow their flash, then you come back with your ultimate, and it's like a guaranteed kill. He's also very versatile if you think about it. You can go damage Jarvan, you can even go one of my favorites, Duskblade Jarvan, or you can go tank Jarvan if your team needs a frontline. It really is about his ganks though. He's a gank machine. Like level 2 you can gank, you can invade. It's kind of like Wily Sin used to be so good. He just gets ahead and then keeps ganking. I think he's a pick that can carry but is really good for your team as well. He brings more than just damage like a lot of other picks. He has the engage, tanky-ish, and more playmaking. Next up, number 3 is Warwick. The best mix of tank and damage, which is why he works so well in 7-2-1. The Sejuani Rammus nerfs again opened up room for him more now. He's kind of like the replacement tank, I guess. You have the damage with Titanic though, and your damage reduction with your E, so it means while you have this damage, you still have a way to survive. He brings engage. He's easy to play. Again, good farm, good clearing and stuff, so you at least have that down, and more aggressive supports actually make it easier to gank bot lane because he doesn't really have that much crowd control himself. So honorable mention, Ezreal is one of the better carry junglers right now. Surprisingly, better at lower ranks as well rather than higher. I didn't really see that coming, but poke is really strong when grouped, and people don't really know how to play against it as much, I guess. That is probably part of it. He's a good solo carry, but you can also be useless. So for the top lane, Zhao could actually be here. Xin is just so strong this patch. Riven could also be here, still really strong this patch, but also really depends on how good you are with her. Surprisingly, she's actually very good late game though. The number 1 I'm going to go with is Urgot. The new buffs were insane for him. Shot right up to the top of the top lane for now. He is the anti-bruiser, okay, or anti-tank, especially if they are melee range. Like, really hard to beat him if you aren't a ranged champion. He's getting a lot of kills right now and dealing a lot of damage, mainly from those leg cannons, I think, but also the Q got a little buff as well. If you think about it, his early game was already really good, but then the buffs came in and now his mid game is a lot better as well. Late, still not great, but he can end by that point in the mid game normally. You are a really, really good bruiser. Your execute is crazy, you have a lot of damage, you're hard to play against, and you dominate lane phase. We're going to skip over the usual bruisers that you can always play, that always do well and stuff. Singed is a powerhouse. There are 2 ways to play him right now. First of all, Leandry's rush and kind of AP Rylai's after that and stuff. This is really good for the lane phase and it's about dominating the 1v1. The more common way of playing Singed though is rushing a Righteous Glory. Now this is going to give you that tanky stats to start with obviously, but actually you just group, you pop your Ghost, your Righteous Glory, your ultimate, and you run at people. Either build, either way, your lane is going to be really strong. You group mid game and it's pretty devastating to play against. The grounding in his kit really took him to kind of the next level. Now it's impossible to stop him flipping you, and that is what makes him so good. It's not his like split push, it's not his lane or like his damage or anything. It's just impossible to dodge engage because of that grounding. Next up, the kind of runner-up, I guess, Pantheon has risen up a lot this patch as a lane dominant stomp champion, which is ideal for the end of the season. He brings Ignite to a TP lane. That's already an advantage. He's going to be able to kill over and over normally. All he needs is that first kill and he's going to take off. One of the big things though, which is why he's so good, is because of his insane roam with his ultimate. So once you get like these first couple of kills in the lane phase, you can actually go mid lane a lot and snowball that lane as well. You don't fall off as hard anymore either. So actually you're still going to be useful in team fights. Honorable mention is Gangplank, another pick that popped up this patch who is really good mid game more than anything. Actually not doing that well super late game, but mid is really good. He is the richest top laner in the game usually, so Red Mercy would love this champion. He does some of the highest damage and controls the game. That is what makes him so good. Moving on to the lovely mid lane, we're starting to see a bit of a shift now with less heals around actually. The S tier, first of all, I mean, Twisted Fate could easily be here, so if you can play him, he's still really good for some free low. The most consistent overpower mid laner though for the past few months has been Malzahar. He's seriously strong, so he is number 1. You're an early to mid-game powerhouse, okay? So you have your damage already, your silence, you have your damage over time and stuff. You also have your suppression, which is going to set up plays. It's a really easy way to win. So even if you're not that great mid lane, you can still win games because all you have to do is press R to catch people or stop and engage. You're very safe with your passive as well, which is a really underrated factor of Malzahar. If he gets ahead or anything like that, he has a lot of damage, but you can't really focus him. Mid lane is a really important role. Everybody knows that, but it's not always about killing stuff. Sometimes it's about just being impossible to shut down, and that is really where Malzahar comes in. Number 2 might be a surprise, but Veigar, especially at lower ranks, he is a monster. Normally, you're going to get ahead. The cage is so easy to gank for, so it actually attracts junglers. A lot more junglers will gank for a Veigar than other champions. Normally, you're going to get a small lead, probably from a gank or something. Then you're going to blow up. You're able to one-shot people, so your lead just keeps getting bigger and bigger. You are also a really good mage counter. You're insane versus low mobility mages, Orianna, Syndra, Ezreal, which are the meta right now. That makes him perfect right now, honestly. You do a ton of damage anyway. You scale into the game, so you can always turn it around or just crush late game. You have an AoE stun, burst damage, a lot of different ways to win. The third pick for me, the runner-up, Orianna, is better this patch with more squishy targets to blow up, I think. She's been a staple for a long time, and that's because she's really hard to beat in the lane phase. It's actually just really difficult, and that is why she's always around. Your ultimate can be game-changing, even when behind. We all know that. Her AoE damage is nuts. You might actually have an issue, though, if the meta shifts into more poke now. It probably is going to, but probably not enough in 2 weeks before the end of the season. Speaking of poke, the honorable mention is going to be Xerath. Now, poke is back massively now. Engage is down in general. Heals are down. That is the way we counter poke champions. Poke is probably the hardest thing to play against unless you have a brutal engage comp, and let's be honest, solo queue doesn't at all because normally engages are like tank champions. Xerath is the rising star of this patch out of all these poke champions. Decent early, but his poke becomes insane later. So support got a big shake up. We're not leaving you to last this time. We're seeing more variety, but Soraka is still number 1 even after the sensor nerfs. Soraka has an insanely stacked kit. Okay, 2 heals, a silence, even some poke as well for the lane phase. The thing is, more than anything else, Soraka helps a bad AD carry or a bad team still win the game. That is why she is so effective, nothing else. Well, actually, your silence is probably one of the most broken abilities in the game. AoE, instant silence that can root people after a time, that's ridiculous. The lane phase is more dangerous in this meta for sure right now, but you should be able to survive, which is going to be enough. It's just kind of like the noob-friendly support, not so much for the Soraka player, but everybody around her can be dumb and still get away with it. Now, number 2, Taric has risen up past the other old Ardent supports for now. Like, offers a bit more than just defense, really. Actually, probably one of the best late game supports right now. If you think about it, he can get a multi-person stun, he has his shields and stuff, his ultimate across his whole team will be nuts. The protection, really, for crit AD carries as well is crazy, and you still have sensor. The Twitch synergy is actually something that is boosting his win rate past what is probably normal for him. You have your stealth stun, so you can actually use it while Twitch is stealth, and it will still stun from him. Your ultimate time for when he comes out of stealth as well, which is free time to hit. Taric is not that good early at all, but he can deny engage, which is enough to wait for team fights and then really get into gear. The runner-up one, though, is going to be the best aggressive support for now, I think. Leona, really strong in lane, obviously, but it's not just that. It's the engage side that we've talked about before this video. With less Sejuani and Rammus and stuff, we don't have as many ways to engage anymore. Getting that from our support, like a low-income support, is really useful, and it means we win games we might not with the more defensive support, just because we can catch people and engage. Once you get ahead on her, you're likely going to stay ahead, and that is what we want to beat these teamfight supports. Honorable mention is going to be Alistar, a massive playmaking support, just like Leona, but even better at diving people and roaming around. Leona is kind of like the lane and engage queen, really. Alistar is like the roam god. That is how you really want to think of it. So not too much has changed for AD carries, actually. That's why I've left it to last, but overall, weaker early into the game now. Well, kind of anyway. Tristana is going to be number 1 because of 2 big things, but they are different things from the last patch, or like used in different ways. The first thing is you're very safe, which is really good when you're against aggressive supports. It means that Leona and Alistar can't really kill you. The second thing is you have really good damage early with your AD ratios and your E and your jump in and stuff, which is really good with aggressive support. So if you have a Leona on your team, you're actually going to be able to jump in and follow. Your team fight is godlike still. You have your range, you're super safe with your jump, you have your attack speed steroid and massive crits. So overall, with more damage like flying around in the game this patch from support, from jungle and stuff, AD carry is more about surviving, not just killing stuff, and that is what makes Tristana number 1. Vayne is the different side to the AD carry role though. More of a risk, but in a way more of a payoff as well. You are really good late game, and her ultimate buff has tipped her over the edge for late game fights. You average almost the highest kills per game out of any AD carry because getting 1 kill normally means at least 1 more with the reset afterwards. Your lane phase is a little weak, obviously. That's an understatement, but we have Soraka, we have Taric to help us get through it, and then we can take over late game. I think she is probably about the same like power level as she was last patch. Sensor didn't really affect her too much. She's amazing late game if she can survive against aggressive supports early. The runner-up one is going to be Twitch, who is still a powerhouse, but nowhere near as strong after the sensor nerfs. You have to remember that actually, like, he is a really good late game champion, and also with Runans, you're going to be applying that sensor on hit damage on all 3 bolts. So late game and 3+ items, yes, he is ridiculous because that is just Twitch. That is what he does, AoE crits. The sensor nerf though means that he isn't going to be popping off at 1 or 2 items as much anymore now, and that was one of the big problems. Lane phase is going to be a bit harder actually, but you can roam, so that is why you're still really good. So let's talk about Caitlyn very quickly to end this video. Lots of people wonder how good she is, and really she's not a fighting AD carry anymore really. I know that sounds very weird, but she's there for siege, like use her range and her headshots to nuke down towers and win a game that way. That is what she's good at. This can be really good, but if your team tries to constantly fight and stuff like a normal team would do, other AD carries will be doing more damage than you until really late game, and by then it might be already over, if that makes sense. So like, yes, she's very good at taking towers and really good to have when you're ahead as a team. She's also very safe, but she's not as good to have for fights or when behind really. So that wraps up the 7.21 meta. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching. Remember to like and subscribe if you want to, but for now I'll leave you with the robots.